Hey gang, this is Matt Sumstine, and I want to go over one of the games played last week in our semifinals of the state tournament. And that was when Damien visited Kapaa on the island of Kauai. And there was some questions about the officiating and the integrity, and not to my surprise, after reviewing the entire game, it was fairly officiated and there was no bias one way or the other. But in going through the game, I did see some plays that I would like to discuss and highlight. Play number 11 on the Hudl line feed is a play that looks like a fumble. You can see that it may be bobbled there a little bit on this view when the running back gets it. There is some question. The defense thinks that they have recovered a fumble. The head linesman immediately indicates that the runner was down. From the end zone view, you can see there is no bobble, and the running back body hits the ground without any indication of the ball being loose. This is not conclusive, but it's a good indicator that the ball did not come loose until his body contacted the ground. Play number 19 is a goal line play, and the games played on the outer island are officiated by a mix of usually the people from that island and also from the visiting islands team. And in this case, one of the local Kauai officials has the ruling on the goal line. He's ruling his team short. This is a great mechanic, a decisive decision, and a fair play. Play number 24 on the Hudl line feed just shows the Damien offense coming out early in the game and not setting for a second before they snap the ball. And they were warned about this in a discussion the previous week and apparently did not make those modifications. So they are set for less than a quarter of a second when I track this on the tape. So moving into next year, we need to work a little bit harder on getting this corrected. Play number 29, encroachment was called on the defense, and I would prefer that this not be called this early in the game unless we've warned them to try to talk them back. It looks pretty close, but the official on the opposite side, not the right official, calls this encroachment against Kapaa, and I'd prefer that we either walk that back or at the very least the call come from the offended side. Play 31 on the line feed is a punt play, and the punter is displaced. Not to the extent that it would be roughing the punter. There's no contact on the plant leg, and it's not a driving, forceful hit, but it's enough to displace him and knock him to the ground. So that is running into the kicker. The penalty is 5 yards. It would have been 4th and 10 instead of 4th and 15, so they likely would have declined this because it's a long punt. And I also wanted to verify that the receivers did not touch that ball there, and they did not. So when the kicking team downs it, that is the end of the play. This next play, play number 34, targeting was called. And it's understandable why, because when in doubt, we're going to call it. But this is not targeting and something we can learn from. The quarterback who has the ball is ducking down. The defender is also ducking down and keeping his head to the side and in front. So this is a position change that causes the helmet contact, which is incidental. The helmet comes off the runner as a result of the body push after the incidental contact. So the player would actually have to leave the game for a play due to his helmet coming off, not due to a penalty. All right, let's move into line feed number 36, and this is a horse collar tackle call. And it's unusual because it doesn't look like it at first because the hand is below the shirt collar. But if the hand gets in the shoulder pad collar, the shirt will not stretch, and that in itself is also a horse collar tackle and correctly called in this instance. Play 39 is an illegal low block during a PAT. The far right-hand side of the offensive formation, you can see ditches down. That's an illegal low block. There is no free blocking zone there. It's too far out. The ball is out of the zone, so this is an illegal low block, would have resulted in likely a re-kick 15 yards further back. Play number 53 is a backward pass. It's pretty tight. It's only about 3/4 of a yard, but it is a backward pass, and also the recovery is tight at the sideline. I thought this was a nice job by the wing official to award this ball to the defense, Damien in this case, even though it's a rolling recovery out of bounds, which would require complete control of the ball. I believe this is a correct call by the line judge. On play number 76, we had a defensive hold called in the secondary against Kapaa, and it's on that slot receiver as he comes across the middle. But what we did miss on this play was an illegal block in the back, and you can see that setting up right here. I put the arrow there. block in the back, point of attack, shoves the guy right by that runner. So we should have offsetting fouls, one against Kapaa, one against Damien, but we just ended up enforcing the Kapaa foul. Play number 77 is causing a lot of controversy, and primarily because there wasn't a proper announcement made. The receiver at the back of the end zone ends up catching the ball in bounds, but prior to that, he's ruled to have stepped out of bounds on the end line before the ball comes in. Now, if that were the case in high school, that's illegal participation. They chose just to wipe this off as ineligible to catch the ball, which here is okay because that's an inequitable penalty anyway, but there should have been some form of announcement to the referee that the receiver had stepped out of bounds prior to the arrival of the ball. Play number 92 on the line feed, basically a pile picker or a UNR was called against the receiving team at the end of this play, but what we missed was this particular block in the back or hold, whichever way you want to call it. And then after the fact, as you can see highlighted here, we pick up the late guy in who comes in and clobbers the next guy. So that was caught. That's perfectly fine. That's a dead ball foul or a UNR at the very end of the play. Now as we look at the end zone view, we'll be able to see that first block a little bit better, which could have been a hold or it could have been a block in the back. You can see the body torque right here. That's an indication of an illegal block in the back or a hold. So that should have been called, followed by this pickoff right here, and we can see 54 lining him up, and then whammo, he goes straight to the ground. So this is a correct call, but we should have had both of those fouls. Play number 95 on the line feed is a roughing the passer call, so keep your eye on the passer. Not much else happens on this play, but this is a correct call, a good pickup by the referee as the ball is away here. There's considerable space between the quarterback and the defender chooses to go ahead and forcefully contact the passer. Now, you can see how things change depending on how you look at it, because when you look at it from the end zone view, it doesn't look that bad. But the sideline view did show the space and the ability to avoid that contact, and that's a correct call. Play 103, Kapaa was ruled down. There was some question as to whether or not it was a fumble, but this video seems to indicate fairly clearly that the right elbow was down prior to the ball popping out. So I believe that this is a good call for the runner being down, although not conclusive. The indicators are there. Play number 106, an illegal blindside block was called on a punt return in conjunction with some sideline interference or a sideline warning. So as this play develops, we're not going to be able to see it too clearly from the line feed, but you can see the coaches running down the field on the sideline on that angle. But let's go to the end zone view, and once we get to that point, things will start to open up a little bit for us. So you can see that the receiver catches it. It's a planned return right, and you can see that this guy right here is coming back upstream or toward his own goal line, and he's seeking out a forceful shoulder contact, which is an illegal blindside block by Hawaii interpretation. You can also see the coach running down the field at the sideline, blocking the view of the deep official. This is also a foul, and as we come to the end of it, everybody's out there. So we need to be able to control these sidelines, stay out of that area during live ball play, and wait until the colors separate before we put in our other team to take possession. Play number 112 is a field goal attempt that's no good. But again, on the right side of the line, we have an illegal low block. Now, because the field goal is no good, the result is a touchback based on where the ball lands. So there is no enforcement option other than a previous spot enforcement. So very likely this would be declined, but we do have to keep an eye on these types of illegal blocks. Play 116. This is a pass play, and we have a couple of things happening. We have incorrect no call for illegal man downfield, number 55. You can see the ball is snapped at the 46. And when the ball is released, and we'll stop it here, number 55 is 3 yards downfield, not engaged, wasn't engaged to get there, so he is illegally downfield. Next, we have some contact at the sideline, which looks like it might be a late hit by the defender, but he really gets creamed on this. There's a foul thrown. It's picked up, I think reasonably so, since the defender who went in there and initiated some late contact. It wasn't really forceful, and he took the brunt of the force. So I think that was a good no call. Play 119, an offensive hold was called on the wide receiver on this play. This is just an incorrect call, and sometimes these occur, and we get sucked into a little bit of unusual high action between the two players. But as we look at the end zone view on this, we can see these players come together. There's no interaction that indicates there's any type of hold. The offensive player, who's in white, has really good position, and he kind of pushes out in that direction. This is not holding. This is not any type of foul. This is a good, clean seal block and should not have been called. Play 130 is just one of those tough plays. It's a run up the middle. There's a question as to whether or not progress was stopped. We then have a loose ball. The officials confer with each other to see if there's anything that anybody can add, and there's not. So the fumble is ruled. The change of possession is granted. And that's just one of those plays. Had the official ruled it down, I'm sure the offense would be happy. Had the offense broke through and scored a touchdown and the officials ruled touchdown, I'm sure the offense would be happy. But in this case, the officials weren't able to identify the dead ball, and then the loose ball presented itself, and it was ruled a change of possession. Just one of those plays. Play 135, Kapaa is called for something at the end of this run, somewhere in the outside third of the field, and there's just nothing there. Something like the offensive hold we called against Damien earlier in the game. This is just nothing. This is making things up, and it makes it very difficult for us to justify to either coaching staff when we have inconsistencies like this in our game. So we do need to correct these types of phantom calls. Play 143 is a difficult situation because the offense is down by a touchdown, and this is the last minute or two of the game. You can see a long pass appears to be complete near the sideline. The official rules it incomplete, and you can see him actually patting the ground. The ball was loose or bobbled, and it touched the ground. As we look at the end zone view, we can see that the player is going to the ground with the ball, and in that scenario, that player has to maintain control of the ball throughout that contact with the ground. And you can see that as he hits the ground, the ball is in an upper area of his body, slides up next to his helmet, and the ball does touch the ground. It's very difficult to tell for sure whether or not it's being bobbled, but it's clear to see that the ball does touch the ground and it's in an awkward position. Difficult, emotional call, but I believe a correct call. There was one additional play very late in the game where there was a holding on the offense, which was Kapaa, and they were winding the clock out or running it out, and it would have made a difference between 2nd and 17 or 3rd and 3, and I'm not sure what the choice of Damien would have been at that point, if they would have given him the extra down and allowed him to run out the clock that way or tried to stop him on 3rd and 3. But really that would have been inconsequential. I think in looking at this game in its entirety, I know that it was an emotional elimination game, but I don't think in any way this was biased one way or the other, and I believe that they received fair treatment from an officiating standpoint. Not perfect, understandable, no game is, but this looked to be a very equitable game.